What warp knowledge did the Emperor take from the warp gods? What did the Emperor put into the Primarch bodies before the good demons were added to the mix? And how does this give each Primarch their unique aura of command? We've had lots of hints around this subject, but never an answer, and I don't think GW will give us one at this point. So I'm going to try and answer it using what we know about demon spirits to mimic how the Emperor could have put the warp spirits into the Primarch bodies. I think this is the knowledge that the Big E wanted from Chaos. It just makes sense. We know not everything within the warp is a demon. The energy of the souls in the warp, when bound with belief, can become something like the Tau God, which was created in the warp from the belief of those with psychic abilities that follow the greater good, and the golden black angels over Baal, who were formed by Xeno beliefs even before the humans reached that planet. So that's where these spirits come from. Each is a collective belief in something that creates a warp creature, and that is what the Emperor wants. So, the first step, collecting or calling them, and how did he decide who he wanted? He must have had an idea of the types of warp spirits or good demons, which I will be using interchangeably, that he wanted, based on how he simply wanted each of the Primarchs to function within the framework of his great work, i.e. Rabuti will play the role of a statesman, the lion the secretive calculating warrior, and so on. He would choose the spirits to match those archetypes. Now at this point he knew about the creation of Draconian, the first murder, which was created in the warp when the first man killed another for selfish reasons and not survival. That might have helped him understand some of what he wanted in his Primarch sons. And another source of information could have been the Eldari. One clear hint that he has spent time with them is that he has some Eldar sword training, as observed by Horus in The End and the Death, Part 3. He might also have used from knowledge from them to help with the Webway project or the Eldari parts of the Golden Throne possibly. Or he could have learned all this warp spirit, good demon stuff from the warp gods as part of his bargain with them. So how would he have summoned the spirits? The process starts with certain marks and wardings placed on the body to prepare it for the demon being bound inside. I assume this must target certain demons so Chaos gets what they want in the right body. One rune named is the Rune of Voiding, which must be placed on the host chest to ensure any previous demons are put out. Further precautions that can be taken are padlocks, amulets, and other means of binding the demon. Then we go through the incantation of binding, the litany of servitus, and the wards of entrapment, and the last words that are spoken are in servitutum abduco, I bind thee fast forever into this host. That's what we know and learn from Eisenhorn. So I think these were the initial things done with his knowledge by the Emperor on his sons to begin preparing them to be the hosts for his chosen good demons. We know from Chaos lore that when a demon is bound into a body in the Materium, it's done so it can maintain its existence within the Materium since it's away from the power of the warp, and the Psyker is a great host for this. So we know from this a good demon or a warp spirit can be stored in a living body. So I think once summoned, a good demon would be bound to the body of its chosen Primarch, like a soul is bound to someone just being born, or when a demon is hosted inside them. And I believe that all the Primarchs on some level are Psykers, even if they display little or nothing of these abilities, and this would also help lure and attract the spirits into their assigned bodies. As with the demons, meat for the trap. Please also remember, the Emperor needs to do this 20 times over, or 21 for the Brothers Hydra, or in one big ceremony, and so might have needed his own precautions against the warp in the form of wardings. Now over time, when a demon is placed in a psychic body, the warp energy from the demon will eat away at the outside, and with time consume the body. The first signs will be demonic changes seen on the body from the outside. I propose with a sturdy Primarch bod, and surely the Big E used a little of his perpetual resilience to give his sons physical healing on top of their natural resilience. I think this would not be an issue, even with a powerful good demon inside a Primarch body. To give you examples of Primarch healing, a Warhound Titan fires on Lorgar after he raised a hand that trembled. Where it wasn't cooked, its burned sores were weeping. And so he comes back from that. And an assassin shoots Fulgrim in the head. Perturabo saw the tiny puff of blood appear on Fulgrim's skull a second before he heard the crack of the shot. Fulgrim's black eyes rolled back into his skull. The shot had struck Fulgrim on the right temple, a neat wound that appeared to have no twin on the opposite side. So with the spirits placed in and bound to the bodies, how much of the Primarch comes from the inbuilt knowledge and genes given by the Emperor? I think he'd want some control once these spirits were popped inside the bodies, even if it's just to give a command to obey Daddy E and be loyal to the Imperium. I said he put it in there, not that it would work, friend. So how would those genetics work? How to understand the basics of language would be one I would put forward as an example, i.e. this would be how to listen, interpret and quickly understand and speak any language they hear in a short time. We see several examples of this with the different Primarchs. Another example would be Perturabo. He lands on Olympia, wanders around and is alone, and is then discovered, and due to his mind he is brought before Demekos, the tyrant of Lokos. He knows the boy's got a sharp mind. He knew architecture, handling politics and combat. Now, he might have learned some of that whilst wandering around. The rest I would put down to being pre-built knowledge, aimed at making the Primarch become what the Emperor needs them to become. We also have the lines saying practice does not come naturally to a Primarch, because it's not needed. They start at very good, and with effort become superb. So we have the genetics put in by the Emperor, and the knowledge learned from the gods and applied. But why make them that way? Because they can fight, inspire and lead the troops to the Imperium like no others. A key ingredient to that is the Primarch aura, which gives the Primarchs something extra about them. We see Russ in this next example. The world became a different place in the presence of Russ, less certain, more primal. Stepping close to him was to step back in time, to man's distant past, when fire kept beasts from the cave. Next is Sanguinius and Jagatai Khan, having different but similar effects on the trooper. First, the Blood Angel's Primarch. The angel's radiance touched Katsuhiro. He felt peace in his heart, a calmness in his mind, and a stilling of his fears. The aches and chills that sickened him were alleviated briefly. For a moment he felt whole again, and the Warhawk, he was the restless wind that filled Katsuhiro with the need to rush forwards, to charge through the enemy, to ride them down and never stop moving, to doubt all, to know all, to laugh and live fully, through the best of times and the worst of times, and then at last to greet death with a defiant smile. Especially like that last one for the Warhawk, it really seems to strike his personality. So those are the auras unique to each Primarch, and the effect of the warp spirit in each of them, affecting those around them and inspiring them or calming them, etc. in different ways. So that is how I believe the Master of Mankind lured and bound the warp spirits into the bodies of his sons, using the stolen knowledge from the Dark Gods and the power of command this gives them. Now, I have a lot of great videos on the channel. See if you like that one in the corner and give it a click.